I've been doing a lot of thinking about censorship lately as we head into Banned Book Week. Throughout the history of print, there has been censorship. There has been books that have been banned. And throughout the history of the internet and throughout the history of digital information, there will be incidents of websites taken down, information suppressed, organizations reaching into your personal space and deleting information, and organizations deciding that you should or shouldn't have access to certain types of information. That's just the way things are, and that's the way things are going to be. But as we move into this brave new digital world, there's a big difference. Censorship takes on massiveness, the ability to censor information on a truly massive global scale. I mean, all you have to do is look at China. You know, China can shut off information, and yes, people find ways to work around it because that's human nature, thank goodness. There will always be a loophole, and people will always take advantage of it, and people will always read and see and hear things that others don't think that they should be reading and seeing and hearing. In 2009, there were two disturbing incidents at Amazon.com involving censorship, or at least in my opinion, incidences that rise to the level of censorship. I'm sure they disagree with this. In the spring, Amazon.com accidentally, on purpose, as a trial run, through its incompetence, whatever, Amazon.com removed the sales ranking from gay and lesbian GBLT material, some 50,000 items, which effectively moved them to the bottom of any list. So whenever you would search something, they would never come up. For all intent and purposes, they flipped a switch and they erased gay and lesbian, GBLT, history, issues, culture from the face of the earth. They flipped that switch back on and they made it public again to everybody, but the scary part of all this, to me anyway, is that it can be done so readily, it can be done so easily, it can be done so quickly. Another disturbing incident with Amazon was late summer of 2009, and there was some sort of copyright clearance mix-up with digital versions of George Orwell's work, 1984, Animal Farm, and Amazon, which had distributed these titles via Kindle and other personal computer devices, reached into those devices and deleted them. It's mind-boggling. Again, not so much that happened, which is bad enough and certainly ironic enough that it was George Orwell that they were doing this to, but that they could do that they can reach into your computer and they can take something off and that they can delete it. Folks, that ought to scare you to death, because we're looking at a trial run of something that's probably going to become pretty common in the future. Incidences of censorship, incidences of taking stuff off the internet, incidences of banning information are on the rise in an electronic format. Scary stuff. I thought it might be interesting to read what George Orwell in 1984 had to say about this very issue. It's amazing. George Orwell didn't exactly predict the internet, but he predicted that there would be technology that would facilitate censorship, which in some ways is a prediction of the internet. This is the first edition of George Orwell's 1984. It's what's referred to as a true first, prized possession of mine, although I got like 6 or 7 copies of it. But it's beautiful. Beautiful. There's nothing like a book. With the deep unconscious sigh which not even the nearness of the telescreen could prevent him from uttering when his day's work started, Winston pulled the speak right toward him, blew the dust from its mouthpiece, and put on his spectacles. Then he unrolled and clipped together 4 small cylinders of paper which had already flopped out of the pneumatic tube on the right-hand side of his desk. In the wall of the cubicle there were 3 orifices. To the right of the speak-right, a small pneumatic tube for written messages. To the left, a large one for newspapers, and in the side wall, within easy reach of Winston's arm, a large oblong slit protected by a wire grating. This last was for the disposal of waste paper. Similar slits existed in thousands or tens of thousands throughout the building, not only in every room, but at short intervals in every corridor. For some reason, they were nicknamed memory holes. When one knew that any document was due for destruction, or even when one saw a scrap of waste paper lying about, it was an automatic action to lift the flap of the nearest memory hole and drop it in, whereupon it would be whirled away on a current of warm air to the enormous furnaces which were hidden somewhere in the recesses of the building. What happened in the unseen labyrinth to which the pneumatic tubes led, he did not know in detail, but he did know in general terms. As soon as all the corrections which happened to be necessary in any particular number of the times had been assembled and collated, that number would be reprinted, the original copy destroyed, and the corrected copies placed in the files in its stead. This process of continuous alteration was applied not only to newspapers, but to books, periodicals, pamphlets, posters, leaflets, films, soundtracks, cartoons, photographs, and to every kind of literature or documentation which might conceivably hold any political or ideological significance. Day by day and almost minute by minute the past was brought up to date. In this way every prediction made by the party could be shown by documentary evidence to have been correct, nor was any item of news or any expression of opinion which conflicted with the needs of the moment ever allowed to remain on record. All history was palimpsest, scraped clean and rescribed exactly as often as was necessary. In no case would it have been possible, once the deed was done, to prove that any falsification had taken place.